us not alone in hatred's wake. Show us how to love. Show us how to love. Show us how. Show us how.
Good morning. Beloveds, with your hearts open and minds awake, hear these words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We must discover the power of love, the redemptive power of love. And when we do that, we will make of this old world a new world, for love is the only way. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I am speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. MLK focuses on love as a means of spiritual fulfillment, on love as an active force that should lead us into greater communion with the world, on love as the primary way we end domination and oppression. This is a congregation in which the power of love is evident. It's the first statement of our collective covenant. The spirit of this church is love. So I welcome you into this community from wherever you are and whenever you are participating. If you are willing and able, take a moment to write in the chat a greeting to those who are worshiping with you on the live stream. And if you're willing and able, without leaving your seat, take a moment to greet someone who is in a nearby chair or in the row before or behind you. Greet them with a wave and with welcoming eyes. Let's understand this physical distance and these masks as expressions of love and care for each other's well-being. If you are new to us and visiting in person, I invite you to gather in the Jackson Chapel, which is just outside the sanctuary doors, up a little bit and to the right. There's a newcomer welcome held after the service. Someone will be there to help answer your questions, anything you might want to know more about this community. And if you are joining on the live stream and wish to let us know that you are new or visiting, please add that to the chat. Our Welcome Ministries coordinator, Hannah Hotchkiss, can be reached at hannah@uuaa.org. No matter how long you have been with us, if for only the last 10 minutes or for 10 years or more, you're all invited to join a workshop that's led by poet, storyteller, and one of the finest spiritual guides of our time, Mark Nepo, next Saturday, the 19th. Registration is at uuaa.org on the website. Mark will also be an integral part of worship on the 20th. I also invite your participation in a series of 3 presentations in which we will learn from the experiences of military veterans and explore how trauma and moral injury impact our lives. This is a collaborative offering with the UU Congregation of Rochester, New York, and was co-created by one of our congregants and military chaplain, Jared Dilley. The series, Invisible Wounds, Healing Moral Injuries, begins on Sunday evening, February 27, and registration information for that is available in the e-news. You have made the intentional decision to be in community with each other. Thank you for trusting me to be one of your guides throughout this next hour. I'm Reverend Theresa Rohlck, and I serve as your Congregational Chaplain. And I share this role as guide with Allison Halerz, our Pianist-in-Residence, Carter Smith, our Acting Director of Music, Mike Halerz, our Tech Consultant, and Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, UUA's Senior Minister. And I speak for the entire team when I say, you are altogether beautiful. It matters that you are here, and we are gathered for worship.
Good morning. As we do each week, we will begin this morning by lighting our chalice. We do so to remind us of our connections with one another and the spark of love, hope, and possibility that resides within each of our hearts. This morning, I'm pleased to invite Joe Libin to the chancel to light our chalice. And if you are joining us from home or at a later time and have your own chalice, I invite you to take this moment to grab your chalice and join together with those gathered in this sanctuary in lighting our chalices. Please join with me in saying the words of our chalice lighting together. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Joe. We are gathered together this morning in community. As Unitarian Universalists, we are not bound together by one single belief or creed, but by the promises that we make about how we will be in healthy relationship with one another. These promises strengthen the bonds of this community, and the spirit of these promises are captured in our community's covenant. Please join with me in saying the words of our covenant together. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you.
Today's story is called Love Z by Jessie, Sima. On a bright, chilly day, Z went out looking for adventure and stumbled upon a piece of half-buried treasure. Inside was a message, too smudgy to read, except for 2 words at the very bottom. Love, Beatrice. The young robot did not know what love meant or who Beatrice was, but they felt important. So Z tucked the treasure away and headed toward home. As night fell, all the robots prepared to power down and recharge for the next day. Z asked for a bedtime story, and a nightlight, and a goodnight kiss. Tucked snugly in bed, Z's thoughts drifted back to the important treasure. "What is love?" asked the young robot. "Does not compute," replied the old rusty robots. Then they said, "Sweet dreams," and turned out the lights. Alone in the dark, Z could not sleep. The other robots had always been able to answer Z's questions. If they did not know what love meant, who would? Maybe there was one person. In the morning, Z went out looking for Beatrice. "Hello, I am looking for Beatrice," explained Z. "I want to know what love is, and she will have the answer." "That sounds important," said the captain. "Climb aboard, and we'll go on a quest." So they did. Unsure of how to start a quest, Z asked around. "Excuse me, are you Beatrice? Are you Beatrice? Hello, are you Beatrice?" "No," said a voice. "What's a Beatrice?" "We are on a quest to find out what love is," explained Z, "and Beatrice will have the answer." "I don't know any Beatrice," said the crow, "but to me, love is sharing your food, even when it is delicious." But that did not compute. Z thanked the crow anyway and changed course toward a place with delicious food. The baker did not know Beatrice either, but she was happy to share what love meant to her. Love is when someone is patient and takes the time to teach you new things. That did not compute, but Z thanked the baker anyway and changed course toward a place with teachers. The kids at recess had lots of thoughts about what love meant. Love is butterflies. Love is sweaters. Love is wishing on a star. Love is lawn gnomes. Love is a million puppies. Love is snowflakes on my tongue. Absolutely none of them computed, but Z thanked the students anyway and had no idea what to go in search of. What if they never found Beatrice? What if love was something a robot just could not compute? Z was about to suggest that they change course toward home when they stumbled upon a good place to spend the night. Hello, we are on a quest. Oh, never mind. Hello, I'm Beatrice, said the woman. Z could not believe their luck. What were you doing out there in the cold? Asked Beatrice. Looking for you, explained Z. I want to know what love is, and I thought you would have the answer. Beatrice paused to think. She thought and thought and thought some more. Love is difficult to explain. It's warm and cozy and safe. You'll know it when you feel it. Z hoped she was right. It's getting late, said Beatrice. Let's get some rest. The young robot was preparing to power down and recharge for the next day when the old rusty robots arrived unannounced. Z, you were gone. We were worried. But we found you. We brought your favorite bedtime story, and your nightlight, and a goodnight kiss. Tucked snugly in bed, Z felt warm and cozy and safe. It was a feeling the young robot had felt many times before. But now it had a name. Love, Z. The end.
Good morning. What a beautiful thing to be together in this week that includes Valentine's Day, a celebration of love, culturally, historically more about couples, but we know it can be broader than that. And in that spirit of broader love, we gather for reflection and deepening. One of the ways in which we bring our community spirit of love alive is by being generous in sharing our thoughts, perceptions, warm feedback, ideas, etc., through what I refer to as a Snapshot Survey. This Sunday we'll be participating in a Snapshot Survey related to worship. I don't typically invite you to take out your cell phones or devices if you're here in person, but please go ahead and do that, leaving the ringers off, please. And if you're joining us via the live stream, you'll have, in just a moment, you'll have the URL and or link that'll invite you to participate in this survey. This survey will be open for the duration of the worship service, closing by the end of it. If you need, and by the way, we encourage you to participate electronically if you can, because it helps us work with the data more easily if you participate electronically. If you're in the sanctuary in person and need to participate by paper, raise a hand and an usher will bring you a paper form and a pencil that you can use to complete the survey manually. The survey has just 2 questions on it. It's very simple and straightforward. The first is basically what has been meaningful or going well in your worship experience. And the second question is open-ended. Any suggestions, feedback, things like that you may have that might support your worship experience. I would invite, if you, with the second question, if you think everything is going great, you have no suggestions at all, we don't know how to interpret an empty field, so please say in that second box that you don't have any suggestions, if that is the case. We're going to take a few moments to complete this Sunday's Snapshot Survey together, and thank you for doing that. If you need a few more minutes to continue filling that survey, please feel free to do that. If you're working with a paper copy, please leave them in the baskets as you depart from our sanctuary later at the end of the service. We now shift to our time of offering all of the ministries, programs, activities that our community is able to create, that we're able to have together, are made real through your generous financial contributions to the community. We don't really receive any outside funding from our denomination or other significant sources. So what we create together, what we offer together, is what we build together. In that spirit, this morning's offering will be received. If you're with us in person, you can leave an offering, a check or other financial donation in the baskets as you depart the sanctuary. If you choose to give electronically, if you're at home or watching this later, you can go to uuaa.org/giving, or also text to give. Text UUAA to 73256. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received. How beautiful to have the Chalice Singers with us today. Thank you for that gift of music. Would you rise as you're comfortably able for our words of dedication? Let's join our hearts and our voices as we offer these sentiments to one another. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. May it be so. Please be seated.
We heard how Z went on a quest to find out what love means, and it meant different things to each of the beings Z encountered. But in the end, Z learned to recognize love because Z's community showed up. They brought a story, a light. They brought themselves. Their action embodied love. They stayed near, and Z literally rested in that love. We're going to take some moments now to rest in the love of this community. See who is around you. See who is near. And imagine those who are far. Because our community is not defined by only those bodies present in a building, or only those bodies connected to a screen on a Sunday morning. The love of this community extends beyond, to all. Now, just let yourself rest. However your body needs to be is how it should be. Still or moving, your eyes open or shut, breathing in and out in any rhythm for any duration. Rest now in this time of musical meditation. Rest in this love. Beloveds, return from your place of stillness of rest. May you be filled with and held by this love today and in the days to come. May it surround you always. Amen.
Such a beautiful meditation. Resting in that center, that energy, that spirit of love. So this past year or so, I've had a chance to make some new friends. These new friends are named Sherry and Fran. And they came to me by way of a congregant. One of Sherry's daughter is one of our congregants, and suggested to her mom, you should get to know Reverend Manish. Sherry and Fran have a podcast that's called the Modern Widow Podcast. And both Sherry and Fran are older than me by some years, and at some point prior to my having met them, they had each experienced the death of their spouses. So they're doing this thing, they're bringing love alive in the world by creating podcast messages for others who are going through a similar experience or have gone through a similar experience and are looking for possibility in life. What's this next stage on moving through grief, getting to the other side of that grief and loss? Where is the hope? Where is the love? Where is the possibility? I fell in love with these two the moment I heard what they're trying to do in the world. And I was like, yes, anytime you're looking for a spiritual perspective, just ask. I will show up. I will always say yes, because what you're trying to do in the world is beautiful. It's great. So they had me on a couple months ago, a month or two ago, to talk about love. And in fact, from their perspective, they're just learning and navigating online dating apps. And for those who don't know, Jeff and my spouse Jeff and I met through Match.com. So a little bit, that was before even apps existed. So I have a little bit of experience, and so we talked about that a little bit, about how Jeff and I met. By the way, that's a great story. If you want to hear more, go to the podcast, and you'll get to hear the fuller version of that. And in the middle of talking about that, their questions about, app etiquette, how it all works, all that stuff. We talked about all these things. So deeper into this conversation, this podcast conversation, Sherry says to me, so what's your love story? And I was genuinely confused by this question because I was falling into what our movies and TV shows do, which is the love story is the origin story. How did you meet, the excitement, the potential butterflies, the initial stages, that's it. And then the movie ends, right? As soon as the origin story, you get to the fulfillment of that, the story ends. So we had just been talking about all of that. I thought, well, we talked about the love story. And I had to reframe it in my mind as, well, what about everything else? Once the origin story is done, what about all the subsequent time? What is that love story about? What has it been about? What are the learnings? What are the experiences that have been in there? And so reframing it in my mind as that, I approached the question. Now, I'm going to share with you a little bit of what I shared in that podcast. This is a deeper version because I've had more time to kind of think about it and expand my own thinking. But I've learned what that subsequent, deeper, fuller, richer love story is for me. And by the way, what I'm going to share a little bit about, I think these same concepts apply to very close friendships. Anybody who's had to figure out how to maintain a long-term, many-year or decades-long friendship, we have to figure out similar things So I think some of these things that I'm going to share about a relationship apply to multiple kinds of relationship. One was complementarity. In my first marriage, we had this idea of like, we're going to do this modernist 50-50, everything is equal thing. That led to a lot of mental scorekeeping and resentments that probably didn't help the relationship much. So meeting Jeff and entering this, for me, second long-term relationship, we decided this is going to be different. We're not doing that. We're going to do complementarity. We recognize that each person has unique and different gifts. And we're going to honor those unique and different gifts by trying to support each other on the things that we're naturally not good at, and try to create room and space for the person to step into their natural gifts and bring those alive to the fullest degree possible. So this involves a couple of things, a couple of additional pieces of this love story. In order to really do that, you have to be okay with you're not in the relationship to change the other person. So you've accepted that everybody has some amazing, beautiful gifts and talents and some things that they're just not good at. And you have to be okay with that. You can't be constantly trying to figure out, well, how am I going to change them and get them to be better at the thing that they're not naturally good at? And as part of that, not shaming or blaming the other person for the things that they're not naturally good at. We can do this in our close relationships. But there's a power in intentionally not shaming or blaming the other person for the things they're not naturally good at. It's actually, with the language we use for this, is genuine acceptance. Arriving at a place of genuine acceptance of the other. And paradoxically, here's the beautiful thing. When you arrive at genuine acceptance with no attempt or inner energy of like, I'm waiting for the other person to change, they actually might. When you are not forcing or bringing that energy of, I need you to change, I want you to change, you have to be different than who you are, from a place of genuine acceptance, dropping those, the person has room to grow and learn. It's more likely that growth and change will happen. I've learned that reliance on one another is a really important thing. The culture we live in does not make this easy. It's very hard. It's very hard at times to admit that we need help, that I might need help. It's as hard to accept the help. To go to somebody and say, yeah, I'm not doing great right now. I need support or comfort or care or to be looked out for right now. And then to actually let the other person show up and do that for you. And then I've learned that maintaining commitment, this is a good one. Maintaining it through misunderstandings, through challenges, through disappointments. This is the thing. More than anything else, this is the thing that builds trust. Because it's different than the energy of, we've arrived at a disappointment, misunderstanding, challenge of some kind. I'm going to take my marbles and go. Or I might drop the threat that I will, or something like that along those lines. Leaving all of that aside, that actually never helps relationship. Yeah, I'm here. I'm totally here. Let's figure this out together. What's come up? Wow, let's explore that together. Let's figure it out. It builds relationship. It builds trust, deepens relationship. So you take these kind of, I'll call them love principles. And the thing is, we sometimes connect, any of us that have been in long-term either relationships, partnerships, marriages, friendships of any kind, we've explored these types of ideas. And then often we don't make the connection that these same things that can be interpersonal, person to person, they apply to our relationships in small groups, or a couple of people, or larger groups. The principles don't change with the scale. They're the same. It's the same concepts and the same ideas, whether we're talking about one-on-one, a group of 3, 4, 5, 15, 20 people, or a community like ours. And so, the question arises, this was such a beautiful question, what is your love story? It got me thinking also, what is our love story. And sometimes I'll talk about the our as in the out there societal our. Today I want to focus more so on us as UUAA, our community, this chosen community that we're each a part of. What is our love story? Not the origin story, everything else after the origin. Now, admittedly, I'm one of the newbies on the block. Some of you have been here for many years, some decades. So you have experience with this love story in a deeper, fuller, richer way than even I might. But I have some elements, some initial ideas, observations of the pieces of this love story, which I'd like to share with you. I'd like to share with you some of the beautiful things, some of the things that are maybe parts of the puzzle that are being worked on. But let me start out with the beautiful things first. In Unitarian Universalism, like other denominations and faith traditions, they're usually characterized by a certain amount of sameness that has brought people together, that is holding the community together. This is true for most religions and faith traditions. In our case, similar-ish, generally speaking, similar-ish education levels, similar-ish socioeconomic location. These types of things, the sameness of that are often some of the things that we have in common. But aside from that, we actually have a great degree of age diversity. I know if you're a longtime attendee here, it may not always feel that way, but I assure you, if you were to compare our demographics to other denominations or even other Unitarian Universalist communities, we would find that our community has a great degree of age diversity compared to other options out there. That's a beautiful thing. What that also means is there's a lot of difference in generational perspectives. In general, we have folks with a lot of varied and different life perspectives, life experiences, and because of those differing experiences, life needs. So we have a beauty of diversity in our community around these types of things: generational difference, perspective, life experience, and needs. And we are often learning from each other because of that. It's a gorgeous thing. We have a profound care for one another. In a recent Sunday, some weeks ago, I shared the experience of, in my early days of getting to know our community, almost 4 years ago now, I was deeply moved by experiencing what inclusivity means for us in a tangible, lived way, through our commitments to accessibility for one another. It was very moving to me, very, very moving to me. That is tangible care, love, being brought alive for one another in this community. I've been deeply touched as well by how our love story includes a commitment to justice seeking and justice making. This is love embodied in the wider world around us. There's many examples of this, but some of the poignant examples include our deep and profound commitment to supporting migrants and refugees. Such powerful and good work, bringing that spirit of compassion and care alive for some of those who are struggling the deepest with structural oppression, systems of oppression and injustice, coming to this country to try and build a better, freer, new life for themselves. Now, other aspects of this love story, the things that are being actively worked on, and I would say that these are not necessarily universally true throughout our community, but they're elements. They're little elements and pieces within the larger story. Some of us at times within our community, we want to change one another. Now notice this is the opposite of one of the love principles I brought up a little while ago, the notion of genuine acceptance, which is not the energy of trying to change one another. And yet this energy does appear at times in our community with a pushiness to it, with an agenda-ladenness to it. I have something that I'm wanting you to do or be. We want one another to change at times. At times, some of us, when that doesn't happen. Because, by the way, human beings don't change just because we're being pushy with them, or we show up with an agenda, hoping, expecting, wanting them to change. Human beings generally dig in. They don't change because of that. So when that wish, desire, expectation, hope doesn't happen, it's not realized, then the next thing happens, which is at times we write one another off. Not everybody is doing this for all the time, but elements of it appear every now and again. The writing off of one another. This is the opposite of one of the other love principles I brought up, which is commitment to one another through difference, misunderstanding, disappointment, whatever it might be. This is the opposite of that, which is, I'm going to write you off. And I hear this at times, by the way, this is in alignment with what in our broader culture is termed these days cancellation or cancel culture. And I hear it expressed in these kinds of sentences. They, and they, by they we mean some other demographic, they are not really Unitarian Universalist. Why don't they just leave? Some of us, at times, again, not everybody, not even most of us, but at times these elements appear. Some of us believe that if we hurt appear in our community, that we don't need to attend to that. That is not something that needs healing, reconciliation, and deeper understanding. Now, I want you to notice, while I'm saying these are elements that are at times present in our community, we're not unique. All of us, and we pay profound and close attention to the social and civic life of the society we're a part of. These are familiar trends in our culture, in our civic and national life, exemplified by our former president, who routinely conveyed a complete lack of disregard for what other people experienced at his behest, whether it was pain, woundedness, anything like that, stepping into any sense of mutual empathy or caring, canceling, dismissing others with that rotating list of cabinet officials. And in behaving in that way, that canceling kind of way, creating no sense of teamwork, no sense of shared purpose, no sense of commitment to one another or loyalty to one another, right? We've seen this all in the wider world and lived out in profound and harmful ways, and we're not separate from the culture we live in. So some of it seeps in to our internal beingness, the ways in which we're at times together. So I want to share today some thoughts and some resources that might help us with some of these occasional elements that appear. One of them is, and by going a little bit deeper into this, by the way, this is how we deepen the love story that we're all together a part of now. We deepen the love story by going deeper into the things that appear that aren't helpful. So one of them, let me speak to the notion and the word of covenant. Reverend Theresa shared a short while ago, we have these words in our service that we say every Sunday. By the way, those words predate my time in this community. They're words that we have collectively chosen to adopt and give life to and return to over and over again. Has nothing to do with my time here. I've inherited this. This was our community's choice to have a covenant and be committed to it. And the word covenant, it has and you've heard me say this when I lead that element in worship. Covenant is a simple thing to understand. It means agreement. And I'll often say that when I introduce that element. These are our shared agreements in community. These are our shared promises to one another in community. It doesn't mean anything else more complicated than that. Shared agreements, shared understandings, shared promises. And those, what we say is the spirit of this church is love, is one of those covenantal agreements or shared understandings. This notion of covenant, deeply Unitarian Universalist from the beginning. We need to look no further than the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, our denomination that we belong to. Article 2 of our denominational bylaws, in the first sentence, includes the concept of covenant. And I want to share with you, this book just came out last year, 2021. It's called Unlocking the Power of Covenant by the Unitarian Universalist Commission on Appraisal. This entire book is dedicated to the concept of covenant, and we recently just gave gifted copies to our entire board of trustees. This book goes through the historical origins of the concept of covenant, why and how it's been a powerful defining aspect of Unitarian Universalism, and why and how it can continue to inform how we live into our highest and best potential. Highly recommend this book if you're not familiar with it. It's super helpful. So we say, this word of covenant, that the spirit of this church is love. I think at times we may encounter confusion about this being an intellectual commitment, i.e. something we just say, versus something that has to be lived into, which is meaning practiced and embodied. If it is only an intellectual commitment, i.e. something that we say, it's pretty meaningless. It means nothing. Because what happens when we haven't, any one of us hasn't lived into the spirit of love? And it matters not whether it's intentional or unintentional. I make all kinds of mistakes all the time unintentionally. And I own it, I apologize, I seek to understand and do better. Most of us do. That's just called being human. So it really doesn't matter whether it's intentional or unintentional, whatever. It happens. Misunderstandings, miscommunications, getting things wrong happens. We at times hurt one another in the process of that. We are obligated. If we say the spirit of this church is love, it is incumbent on us. It is a moral obligation to attend to that. Otherwise, what are we living into? We're living into the worst aspects of abusive partnerships and marriages, where, for example, one of the partners says, "You know I love you, sweetie." And then the other person says, "Yeah, but you hurt my feelings." And then the other person responds back, "Well, that's your problem." The deed doesn't match up with what the person is saying. So we have to bring both into alignment. That only happens in relationship, that only happens through conversation, through addressing misunderstandings, hurts, whatever else may arise. Through those types of conversations, we demonstrate our commitment to one another, we move into deeper understanding, and the potential for healing, repair, and restoration. Now, I want to share another beautiful resource with you. Native Michigander, Metro Detroit area resident, Adrian Marie Brown. Such a gorgeous, gorgeous thinker. I absolutely love Adrian Marie Brown. This is a smaller one of her books. It's called We Will Not Cancel Us. Fantastic resource. Now, the title of Adrian Marie Brown, every word she uses is intentional. Nothing accidental, carefully thought through thinker. So she says, the title of this book, We Will Not Cancel Us. Who's the us? We go to her prior book called Emergence Strategy, which the Board of Trustees and I looked at together a couple years ago. In Emergence Strategy, she says things like, trust the people. Well, which people? The people who've shown up. The people who are seeking to be in a gathering, seeking to be in community, seeking to be in relationship with you. This, too, is not more complicated than that. The people are the ones who've shown up. So when she says, we will not cancel us, she means the people who are showing up to be in community with you. We will not cancel one another. We will not dismiss one another. We will not write one another off. When she says trust the people, she also says trust all of the people. You don't get to pick and choose. I trust these, but I don't trust them. You don't get to do that. Trust the people. And we're not going to cancel us. So here's what she says about some of this. She says in movements, in communities, in gatherings, we need a low bar for entry, meaning permeable. It's easy to come in if you want to. If you want to be part of the community, if you want to be part of the work, low bar for entry. It should be easy to come in, and high standards of conduct. Low bar of entry, but high expectations of one another, that we will carry ourselves impeccably. She says we need to get excellent at conflict. Excellent at conflict. Somebody asked one of our committee leaders recently, how are we all going to get on the same page about issue X, whatever X was? And we had a little chuckle about this. In this day and age, in the society we're living in the time we're living in, on any question that is complicated and nuanced, there's no getting everybody on the same page. It's not happening in the world we live in, so why would we think it's going to happen in a smaller community of which we're a reflection of the larger society? It's not possible to get everybody 100% on the same page. So we have to learn to live with and be present to difference without trying to change one another, without dismissing and canceling one another. We have to learn to be present to and live with difference. So she says we need to get excellent at conflict, meaning disagreement and difference. We need to get excellent at it. And here's what she says. She says it's hard to learn how to be in righteous disagreement without either repressing our differences or trying to destroy each other. Powerful words. Say them again. It's hard to learn how to be in righteous disagreement without either repressing our differences, pretending there's no difference, or not talking about it, or trying to destroy each other, bring each other down, make each other our enemies. So she says, what we need, this excellence around difference, around conflict, what we need is principled struggle. Principled struggle. And principled struggle, it includes things like honesty and directness in our communication. But importantly, compassion. And compassion is always grounded in the spirit and energy of love. In Buddhism, this concept is called karuna, which means love, an empathy, a deep empathy for others, taking a deep interest in others, which means we're not showing up with that pushy, agenda-laden energy that I'm waiting for you to convince you, I'm waiting for you to change, I'm going to debate you and get you to change. Not that. That is not compassion. That is not empathy. That is not taking a deep interest in the other. Taking a deep interest in the other is asking open questions. Tell me more about your life experience. Tell me why you believe what you believe. Tell me why you need what you're telling me you need in the world. I want to understand more. Tell me more, please, because I love you. I care about you, and I care about our relationship. I care about our community. We're not trying to win a debate. We're not trying to change the other. We're not trying to realize some personal agenda that is important to us. We're trying to further relational understanding and through that collective understanding. And let me make one thing clear. I was in a training of a committee this week. We were talking about these types of situations, complex situations. We practiced some technical skills. Technical skills aren't bad. But how do you ask good questions? These types of things. One of the things I was reminded of, there's a secret sauce. I use that language, the secret sauce underneath the inquiry. That tell me more, I want to learn more about your life, your experience, your perspective, your need. Underneath that, there has to be love and empathy and caring. And it cannot be faked. If we are simply saying the words and in our heart dismissing the other person, they feel it. I promise you, you know when somebody is showing up with you and they don't really care about you, they just want to win a debate, you know it. You're not confused about it, you feel it. In a similar way, you feel it when somebody's really showing up with such love and care in their heart. Please tell me more. I really want to learn what your life is about. because it's different than mine. When somebody says that with sincerity, we feel it. We feel the caring. We feel the love. It cannot be faked. And it is the secret sauce that makes that conversation happen in a deeper, richer, better way. From that place of profound commitment to one another, deep caring and love for one another, we should be able to talk about anything we want to talk about. We should be able to talk about how we are collectively, in different ways, collectively working to free one another and free this world of oppressions and isms, racism, misogyny, genderism, transphobia, ableism, ageism, all of the isms that we're all collectively and in different ways trying to undo so that we can each be free and reach our fullest potential. We should be able to talk about that. We should be able to talk about the dignity and the human rights of the people in Palestine. And what does that need? What witness does that call us to? We should be able to talk about the brokenness in the world, how it seems like the world's collectively waiting for Ukraine to be invaded. It seems possible to even stop this. About the environmental devastation that is just ramping up and up and up. What are all the different variety of things we're trying to do and hold and be in the middle of that, which includes navigating our own fear and uncertainty even as we're trying to address that and make it better. We should be able to talk about anything we want to talk about in the spirit of love, not for the purpose of winning a debate, but for the purpose of deeper understanding, deeper presence to one another, because we care about each other that much. It doesn't solve a problem, but what it does is it builds trust. It was one of the core love principles I mentioned. When others can feel our commitment to them, it builds trust. You have a very different life experience, a very different understanding of that, whatever that is. But I feel that you also are loving and respecting me. So we don't agree, but maybe the deeper understanding and deeper presence to one another, it moves us towards trust. Trust in relationship, trust in community, trust in one another. This is how we deepen our community's love story. And while I started out saying I wasn't really talking about the world out there but us, but I am. Because if we can start to live this out better, in a better way with one another, isn't this exactly what our nation, what our society, our culture also needs? It is. It is. Deepening our love story is also exactly what is needed for the greater healing of the world, of our society, of our culture. May we each move into that as fully and well as we can.
Love will guide us, Jesus, drive us.
please rise as you're comfortably able. Those of us that are in the sanctuary, those of you at home, you're with us in spirit. Go out into this new week, this week that includes this holiday, this cultural holiday, Valentine's Day, understanding that the spirit of love, we know how broad it is, how deep it is, how valuable and important it is. Hold this question with you, the one that was presented to me. What is your love story? What are the love stories you're connected to? What have those stories been teaching you about what it means to be human, to be in relationship with others, one-on-one, in groups, in community? We know the wisdom that those journeys and those stories have taught us. Keep deepening your own love story even as we're collectively deepening ours. This is the healing that our souls, our hearts need, and the world that we're a part of needs. Go forth in peace and love, knowing you're held in the embrace of this community until we gather again. Go in love, go in peace. Blessed be.